All right. What's going on, everybody? Holler into the chat. Let me know that you're alive. That I'm not here sitting alone. Get that chat populated. Tell me what's up. Tell me how your Sunday is going, how life is going, where you're tuning in from. Anything. Anything at all. Hey, nice. I'm like trying to see how where I can position the chat so I can read it and not have the camera all up in my way at the same time. What's going on? Hey, Lisa, Sybil, and Petra, Kevin, Chris, Tom, Greg, Patrina. Sorry. Nice. Awesome. It's good to see you guys too. It is a wonderful day outside right now. I am vicariously living through my window to feel outside. So yeah, just going to give it a couple of more seconds to let people roll in. But I'm really happy to have everybody here, really, and I'm hoping that. So I want to preface this by saying, please be active in the chat. I think that some of the concepts that I'm going to go over today may need to be like refined, or kind of more examples may be needed. So if we go over some things and you have a question, or you need something like kind of refined, or you need a different analogy, please let me know, because I honestly think that this is like truly important information, but it's the kind of information that can be a little difficult to conceptualize if you don't have it in practice. And so I want to be able to help you the best that I can. So please feel free to be active in that chat and let me know what you're thinking, or let me know what's going on. And then, of course, at the end of this, we're going to do a Q&A anyway. So if you do have questions that you think can wait, then you're more than welcome to wait in the end, before for the Q&A. So with all of that being said, welcome to this masterclass. I am Kevin McCove. If you don't know anything about me, I am just like you. I'm a songwriter. I'm an independent writer, artist. I've been fortunate enough to have a career, a full-time career in the arts since I was like 21, 22. And so that's for over the last decade, between playing improvisational jazz piano, doing original music, doing cover music, doing wedding bands, uh, delving into some stuff with booking, opening for national acts like the Backstreet Boys and Drake and J. Cole, Nicki Minaj, to writing music for television, film, and advertising. Everything, different brands. Company that I'm currently working with right now. If you watched the Sync Spotlight earlier this week, the Joyburst brand. We wrote the song for their ad campaign just this past year. We're working on another project with them. So a bit of different things. And so uh, I wanted to talk to you guys today about dollars and deadlines, using deadlines to leverage price and demand. And I think that like this is really important. Having a deadline can certainly help you to leverage the price. And obviously it's in there, it's like, and demand, because if it's a deadline, what you're doing is you're saying that there is a time limit, right? And time limit forces people into decision making. So I think first, what we have to understand is pricing. And so pricing is like an issue that I think all of us run into, because it's like, what do I charge for what I do? And first of all, you have to understand whether you provide a service or if you provide a good. And so you can think of that in like music terms, right? Is like, when I'm providing a service, am I going out and I'm performing a show? Am I playing piano, or am I playing guitar like with this band or for this uh, restaurant or for this club, right? That's when you're providing a service. When it's a good, that's more of like when you're selling your CDs, when you're trying to, even get downloads, right? You've commoditized it into a good. You've taken your music and you've turned it into a good. When you're selling merchandise, that's a good. And these are important differentiations for you because you can kind of go about selling each one differently. So if you're experiencing some friction in like pricing, understand that you price services a little different than you price goods, and the mechanisms in which you can use to do them are they have nuance. Okay. So first is like there are different ways to price things, right? And so you have what we can call uh, cost plus pricing, right? And I think that that's typically how most musicians sell. And cost plus pricing is essentially like, this is what it costs me to go do this thing, right? Like, okay, it's going to take me $20 in gas to get there. I have a guitar and I have an amp and I have a microphone, and that cost me XYZ dollars. So I'm factoring in that. And then it's my time. Maybe I'm spending 2 or 3 hours to go do the show and actually do the thing, right? And so we take all of that, and then so that's the cost of it. Maybe that cost comes out to like a total of $50 actual cost, right? You driving there, you setting up, you all of that, maybe it costs like $50. And then you plus price. So you say, okay, well that's what it costs me and I want to make something out of it. So it's $100 for my time. So you take the gig that really costs you about $50, you take a $150 gig, and realistically what you net out of it is about $100, right? After your expenses are covered. And so that I think that's a typical pricing structure. What I want to introduce you to is the technical term for it is like it's called differential pricing, but I like to think of it as value based pricing. And when you're doing value based pricing, I have a saying of like, you price the client, not the job, right? So whether you are doing the same gig where you go and you play, and let's say you're playing guitar or something like, I'll use myself as an example, right? I'm gonna go somewhere and I'm gonna play improvisational jazz keys. In value based pricing, if I go to the spot down the street that can only fit like 75 people or whatever, and maybe I don't even really have much of a draw or whatever, I'm going to give them one price, right? Let's call that price $150. In value based pricing, what I would say is, well, that's the price for the spot down the street. The price for the same exact service, I'm not doing anything different. The same thing. I'm going to go in, I'm going to play improvisational jazz piano for the same amount of time I would have played at the other place. But now I'm playing at a five-star hotel, and they have like some incredible business conference going on. There's going to be a whole bunch of business professionals there. The hotel and the event itself is looking to make an impact on these people. They want to provide the experience that this is a very high-end event. That same exact service is now 10x. So instead of $150, I'm going to charge $1,500. And the reason why I'm charging $1,500, now I want you to understand that not everyone is keen to pricing like this, right? And when I say keen to it, I mean like they may think like, oh, that's criminal. You're doing the same exact thing. Why would you charge differently? And it's like you're charging differently because the value is different. Remember, value-based pricing. The value that you have to offer to the spot down the street may ultimately turn into like an extra couple of clients for them. It may turn into an extra few bar sales, right? And so you're basing it based on the value that you can provide. The value that this event or hotel may experience out of a bunch of clients coming in who spend money, who are going to go to the bar and spend money, who are going to book more stays at this hotel, who are going to buy in the presidential suite. The value there is, well, if you get two or three extra people to commit to purchasing stays longer or stays here again, and they're purchasing $1,500 to $2,000 a night stays. Well, if I get three or four of them, even from playing here, right? If I enhance that value, then that increases what it's actually worth. And that, to me, justifies my ability to charge this extra amount. So that's just thinking about how you are pricing. And I want you to think of it that way because I'm going throughout this presentation, I'm going to use the word client often, but and make a note of this. Client just equals customer. A client is a customer. They're someone who comes to you to purchase what you provide, whether that be a good or a service. Okay? And that same differential pricing, value-based pricing ideology, I just use it in an example that was a service. But let's take this to an example that is a good. Okay, so in a good where my client, my customer, is an individual. Let's say I make music. I recorded a piece of music and I am selling it to the client, you, the fan, the audience. Okay, when you sell to that person, what value can they extract out of it? Most of the value that they're going to be able to extract out of this is going to be personal use value. Now, that could be immeasurable, right? Because maybe it stops them from committing suicide, or maybe it saves their marriage, or whatever it is. But those are intangibles. We can't really put a real price on those things, right? Those are priceless. But what we can say is that this good that I'm giving to this person, because it is priceless and it's intangible, they don't have any real use for it outside of their own personal consumption. And things that are limited in that personal consumption may have a lower price. But if I'm selling to the customer, same, a piece of music, and for example, I'm going to use a real example like Joyburst, right? Like this brand, this company. Well, what use do they have out of this song? Well, the use is that they're going to use it as a marketing tool, an advertising tool to promote their brand. And it's going to help them reach into an audience and make their product seem fun and cool and hip. And that has value. It's going to create sonic recognition. And that ultimately for them leads to increased sales. Now, their product goes for, I don't know, like $30 a case, right? And I think that's like outright. Maybe it's like 24 if you get it at Costco for bulk buy. So for every single unit, you stand to gain $24. So if this song has a reach of 10,000 people, let's say it reaches 10,000 people, and 10% of those people, 1,000 people, purchase this item. If 1,000 people purchase the item at, let's say they're not bulk buying, they buy it for $30, then we're talking about a $30,000 value. Okay? That helps me to justify how much. So it justifies the difference between charging 99 cents for a song versus charging $30,000 for a song, right? And that's value-based pricing because what they're able to extract out of it changes. And that's important for you to realize what you're providing to someone, okay? And I also want you to understand too, because you're probably going to be, I'm trying to do this on a scale of big and small, right? And so you have big business, you have small business. And this may feel counterintuitive, but big business has more risk involved, right? If this brand puts out a song and it is horrible for the brand, people hate it, it reaches a whole bunch of people, they hate it, it destroys product recognition and appreciation and value for what they're trying to sell, that's a lot of risk. And it costs them a ton of money. For the place down the street, if they book you for a gig, or even if they play your music and then it just doesn't do well, like a DJ or whatever, the risk is low. It says, they didn't like it, okay, switch it quickly. Switching this would be very, very hard. So there's like the ideology that the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. with that in mind, you're saying that if a client, a customer, is taking a large risk, they stand a lot to gain, right? And they're paying a lot for it, which is a lot of risk, it should cost them more. Bigger the risk, bigger the reward. The reward is going to be higher. If it's small customer, then there's no real risk in it. So the price reflects the risk that's involved. I'm going to pause right here because I got a comment. It says, when you say good, do you mean one piece of goods? Okay, so when I say good, just to reiterate again, when I say good, I mean any type of physical product. Okay, so for you, for us as musicians, that physical product tends to manifest itself in merchandise, right? Whether it's hats or shirts or stickers or if you physically create the product, right? It's not you singing it live or whatever, right? It's you recorded it and now it's a product. It's a physical product. Even if it's in the digital market space, it's still a physical product. And then you've distributed it out. That's what I mean by good. Service is like you in the act of doing it. Says, okay, hold on. And then it says, but you don't know the value. So you mean that you estimate the value of the service. I'm going to explain to you how to find. This is a very good question, okay? And I like where your mind is going, and I'm going to explain this a little later. So let's put a pin in that, right? And we're going to go back to how you find the value of a service, okay? And again, because right now we're just framing our minds. I want you to understand that we're going somewhere and we're framing our minds right now. And we're understanding pricing. Right now, we just talked about cost plus pricing and differential pricing, which is value-based pricing. Okay, and the point of this is because you need to get money in your mind. And I want you to understand that it's okay to have money conversations because you're likely talking to a business owner or a booking person, right? And they spend money. Do not view what you have to provide as something that's like dirty or that you can't talk about, okay? Because if let's say I am a manager at a bar, right? You're going to play at my bar, and you're avoiding having the money conversation. You need to understand that every day I have a money conversation. I need to know how many cups I need. I need to know, and that costs money. How many more napkins do we need to order? That costs money. Do we need to remodel the floors? That costs money. I have to pay rent here. That costs money, right? We need new ice. That costs money. We need to refill our beverages. That costs money. Like I'm constantly in the conversation of money ins and outs. So it's not necessarily an emotional conversation for me. It's just a conversation that I have all the time. And I'm just trying to figure out efficiencies. So if you come in and you have, I'm probably like, let's get to the money conversation so that I can understand how this works out for me. And in relationship to how much money I spend on every other thing in our business, the money that you want from me is likely nothing, right? If I'm a restaurant owner, if I'm a bar manager and I need to buy new alcohol or whatever, right? I may put in an order, that order may be $5,000. Maybe I need like new Captain Morgan or something like that. That's a $5,000 order. Oh, we need new plates or we need new cups because all the dishwashers broke them and then, waiter servers dropped them and stuff. We have to re-up on new glassware. Okay? And then we have to screen print our logo on some of this glassware or whatever. All of that comes at a cost. And I'm used to cutting these checks. So your $150 or your $200, it's just like it's so small in comparison. So have the money conversation, and for you, feel comfortable having that because it's like, man, they have the money conversation. Let's bring it up. Faster we get to it, then the better. And it's easier to approach it that way with this mindset. Okay, so I want everyone to take a moment to take into this mindset. Okay, and is that who you are is different than what you make. I know for a lot of musicians, if I were to ask you, right, like, hey, who are you? You'd be like, oh yeah, like, I'm gonna use someone in the chat as an example because their name is right here. Like, I'm Robert Melbourne. I'm a producer. I produce EDM music or whatever. That is not who you are. Okay? I want you to understand that is not who you are. So if you were to ask me, who am I? Well, I'm a creative and dynamic problem solver. I create solutions. Typically, those solutions are in the area which I frequently, the area I frequently provide those solutions are through musical based avenues, like music based avenues. So that's who I am. I'm a solutions person. I'm a creative person. I solve problems. When you book me to play your show, I'm just not the person that you're booking to play piano. I am there to solve a problem. The reason why I'm there playing piano is because you likely have a problem. What is that problem? And I'm there to solve it. Like you diagnose, okay? So I'm gonna walk you through some steps. I want you to think about that right now. Take some time, okay? Seriously, take the time right now and write to me who you are. Write it to yourself and then put it in the chat, okay? We need to share this with each other. Who are you? Not what you do in terms of like, I'm a musician, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter. Like, that's not who you are. Who are you? Okay? Once we get to the core of that, we can start to establish like real conversations. So, something that you want to understand, okay, is why are we having this conversation? When you were with a client, when you were with a customer, when you were trying to book a gig, when you were trying to sell a t shirt, when you're trying to get someone to purchase your music, why are we having the conversation? So you have to diagnose the problem. Okay. So oftentimes, like when it comes to this, like we're trying to provide a solution without knowing a problem. Hey, listen to my music. It's feel good music. Maybe that person feels good already. Hey, come to my show. I'm playing at the show down the street. Maybe they have something different going on in their life, and that's not the thing. So, what you have to understand is like, what is their problem? What is their issue? Okay, so for the instance of service provision, right? And we're going to go back to booking a show. You go to a bar that you want to play at their bar. They're looking to hire music. Maybe you're talking to a booking agent, or you're talking to the man. They're looking to hire music. Okay, what diagnose their problem first, and think of this. I think a good way to think about this like you're a doctor, right? Like when you're in the doctor's office, the doctor is just kind of like, yeah, so tell me what's going on. And you're like, like my throat's itchy and my glands are swollen. And, I was coughing up a lung the other day, right? Right. Like you tell them all of the information that they need. And so when you say that, they don't say, oh, let me go check out your foot. They know exactly where they're supposed to be looking. So get the other person to explain to you what exactly it is that they need. And, a phrase that I like to say is just kind of like, what's the core issue that you're struggling with right now? Okay, so let's use that for an example, right? I'm in a conversation with someone who is about to purchase, they're interested in music, right? They need talent or something. I'm just kind of like, all right, cool. Like, it's great. You guys got music and you want music. Like, what's the core issue? Why do you want, what's the core issue? Oh, well, we want music because, like, we're trying to get more people into our establishment. And then you hit them with a great question. And you can use this question several times, right? And you just say, like, and what else? Because most of the time, the problem is a deeper issue, right? And so when they say they want music, they think they have the solution. This is exactly like what you do when you go to your doctor, right? You say the thing, and then they kind of ask, they probe around a little bit, right? So they're not trying to, like, create this prognosis. They're doing a diagnosis, right? You think because someone's asking you for music, they need music. That may not be true. Okay, so they may say, like, we're having a really hard time getting people into our club or our bar, like after happy hour. So, once the business people leave after like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, like it kind of clears out and, everybody goes back home and we can't really keep anybody around. So like, oh, okay, well, um, and what else? Like, what else is the issue with that? Well, when we can't keep people around, well, we can't really afford to keep running specials after happy hour, and we don't really have a way to keep people here, until like 9 or 10 when we close. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need music. You need a way to retain customers from, what are we saying, like 7 to 9 o'clock? Okay, they might say, yeah, we need a way to retain customers from 7 to 9 o'clock. In which case, then you can say like you make an emotional appeal to them. Like, I really get that. I understand. Actually, yeah, I have a family too, and those hours are important to me because I normally put my kids down around 8 o'clock, and so having that hour between 7 and 8 is it's really important for me to spend that time with my kids. And so they'll understand that there's an emotional connection to the problem that they have, and they'll understand that you are connected to the issue that they have. And so what you can say to them then is like, um, I know you're open until 10. I put my kids down at 8 because I do really appreciate that time. But I think that a lot of kids go to bed at 8. And so maybe they would be looking to get out of the house after they put their kids down. Would you entertain the idea of doing live music from 8 to 10? 8 to 10, and maybe we position it as, a way to decompress after putting the kids down after a long day of work. Skip the happy hour, take some time for yourself, and come in. Now, this may be valuable to you because during happy hour, you guys do sales. And this might get people in where they're not subject to purchasing at a discounted price. Does that sound like a solution to some of your problems? That's like a way to go through part of that conversation and understand what they truly need. And maybe they don't even need music at the end of that, because maybe what you say, like what could very realistically be part of that conversation is, maybe they take it a little further and they say, okay, yeah, that sounds great. How much would that cost? And you say, I couldn't do it for less than $200. And they say, $200, like, we don't really have $200, right? And so then you kind of get into this is where you're leveraging price and demand, right? Because it's like, well, how big of a problem is this for you? Is this the kind of problem, like, how much do you stand to lose if you continue with this problem? Because every day that you don't solve this problem, the problem just continues, and it's probably going to get bigger, and that's why you're looking to solve it, right? So what are you really looking to do? It's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, the problem would be solved if we could get an extra like 5 people in the door between those hours. Okay, and you want to have music like once a week doing that, or you want to do it like every day? And maybe they start off saying like, okay, like we could try it out for like once a week. Maybe that's what they're offering, once a week. And you say, okay, well, I have someone that I know that could do this for about $100, and we could talk to them. But if you want me to do it, and I know that you're talking to me because you want me to do it, and I'm going to deliver on this. Um, why don't we go at $150 for the first month? Let's give this. I would honestly be aggressive about it. I'd probably say for the first quarter, right? That gives you 12 guaranteed dates, right? So why don't we go about this for the first quarter? We'll do $150 per month, but since my rate is or per week, but since my rate is normally 200, how about I receive a percentage of sales for every additional like client that comes in or whatever it is, right? And you can work this out, right? Maybe you just like negotiate an extra bar tab or something like that. But what that does is you have locked in now virtually 12 dates for someone to experience. And the reason why you are sort of discounting the price, quote unquote, is because they're going to adopt it, right? They're going to be an early adopter and they're guaranteeing you more work. So you went from making $200 to making 156 600 a month times 3, right? $1,800. And so that's leveraging the demand for this thing. And that was just an example that I wanted to get you just apart. Like, having the conversation, diagnose the problem, ask the questions. What's the core issue that they're struggling with, and what else? Get to the core of it, and then appeal with them emotionally. And I wanted to give you that because all of that. Remember when I told you to write down? And I want to see more of these. Thank you guys for writing into the chat who you are. Thank you. Um, all of that was an example of how to position yourself as an expert. Remember, because you're not just a musician, you're not just a recording artist, you're not just a songwriter, you are an expert. You're an expert at what you do. And the reason why you want to position yourself as an expert and not a service provider, right? When you say I'm a musician, when you say I'm a guitar player, I'm a songwriter, you've relegated yourself to a service provider. And there's a fuck ton of there's a bunch of service providers out here. Like there's a bunch of service providers. You don't want to be that. You want to be an expert, okay? Because you're an expert in musical experiences, and you provide solutions to music experience, like problems related to music experiences. And what's great about this is that experts are busy. The great thing about being an expert is that you're busy, right? And so the perception of being busy is you're touching on supply limits. Oh, you're busy, supply limit. That must mean demand is high. You're busy, and what did we already talk about price and demand, or price? It's by supply and demand. Those are the biggest factors in price: supply and demand. When you're an expert, you're busy. That gives you a reason to increase the price. It tells the client that you are in limited supply and that there is a high demand for you. So you must position yourself as an expert. Okay. Now, I'm gonna pause right here because we're about to get into the next section. I wanted there to be an understanding around price, how you price, getting to some core issues with a client. I'm gonna pause right here before we move into the next scenario, which is just like, what is the biggest driver of price, supply and demand, and how you do dollars, decisions, and deadlines. Pausing right here. Are there any questions? Is everyone following along? Okay, so looks like everybody's following along. I'm going to keep it moving. All right, so we just established that the biggest driver of price is supply and demand, right? And so then now we're getting to like the meat, right, of this masterclass, like dollars and deadlines, okay? So write this down. These are the 3 Ds, and I hate using alliteration like that, but like dollars, decision, deadline, right? You have to find out the money. We have to move people into a decision. We move people into a decision with a deadline, right? Okay, so think of it as like all of us are musicians, all songwriters, whatever it is like that, and we want people to appreciate what we do. That's like that's a big thing for us. Like we want to be valued. I want people to hear my music. Why? Because you want to be appreciated. Now, when it comes to like booking shows and getting paid and stuff like that, somehow we turn down our need for appreciation, right? And I want you to think of it as like every dollar equals one thank you note, right? So you want more appreciation, put it in your mind that dollars equal thank you notes. So $1, it costs $1 for your product, that's one thank you. It costs $100 for the thing that you're doing, that's 100 thank yous, right? And that's more value. And we want to feel appreciated for the thing that we do, whether it's a product or a service. And don't feel bad about that, because when you set a price, there are 2 magical letters that when used in combination together are kind of your best friend and a very powerful mechanism. Does anybody have any idea what those 2 letters are? You can just put it in the chat. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those 2 letters are N and O. No. That's your best friend. Your best friend, when you're talking about getting the prices right, is no. Because no is where the negotiation starts. It is at no where the negotiation starts. And think of it this way: you didn't have the money before the gig was there, before the opportunity for the gig was there, before the sales were there, before someone purchased the merch, whatever. You didn't have that money. You didn't have any of it. So if you set a price and someone doesn't want to pay it, it doesn't matter. You didn't have it in the first place. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I need it. You cannot allow, you like really, 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 you can't allow like your character to be compromised. And that's really how I think of it. Like, it needs to be that heavy on your heart that, like, if I go and I play this show for this little amount of money and there's nothing else that I can get out of it, or if I go and I do this work for this little amount of money and there's nothing else I can get about it, I am like devaluing myself. And the truth is that you probably wouldn't do that for someone else, right? Like, you have to love yourself a little more. You have to care about yourself a little more. Because if I were to ask anybody here to negotiate on behalf of me, hey, there's a client and they want Kevin to write a song for them. They want Kevin to come up with a creative solution to their problem. I almost feel 100% confident that if someone came to anyone in this chat and they said like, hey, like, we'd like to hire Kevin, you know, we'd like to have him work on this project, develop a little bit of a creative solution, write a song for us. We have $250 for him to write that song. You think Kevin will do it? I know that you guys would be like, yeah, no, he's probably not going to do it. And that you would negotiate for me. You would say like, well, look, Kevin, you know, I mean, he doesn't even really pick up the phone for a call like that unless it's $500, $1,000, you know, so I don't think he's going to be able to do it. You wouldn't waste my time. You wouldn't come back to me with that opportunity wasting my time like that. So don't do it for yourself. Don't do that to yourself. If you argue for me and you don't even know me, you know me over the internet. You don't truly know me. And I value you knowing me over the internet. But I'm just saying, you don't truly know me, and yet you would advocate for me more than you would advocate for yourself. Think about it like you are advocating for your child or your best friend, right? You have to have a little bit of your emotional integrity intact in these conversations so that you can just say like, no, this is where it is, and we can't do it for less than that. And even if they hit you back with something ridiculous, like, oh, well, you know, they would get this exposure. Like, well, you know, what is that exposure worth? You'd ask them more questions. What is that exposure worth? How is it working? Like, I want you to think of it like that and value yourself. Okay? So I want to review diagnosing the problem. You go to them. How much is the problem costing you? Every day you don't solve the problem, you lose money. Express to them that they don't want to spend a little bit of money on a big issue. You wouldn't spend a little bit of money on a big issue. If it was like your venue is about to not have a sound system, you'd be like, oh, I got to get my sound system fixed. And if it costs a lot of money and your venue is based on music, you're going to spend the money on it. So express that to them. Let's go back to our example of the guy who wants to book me from 8 to 10 after happy hour, right? Let's go back to that scenario. How much do you stand to lose if you don't solve this problem? Well, we got to keep the lights on. We got to keep the cooks in the back. We have like the food that doesn't get sold. We have bartenders on. Like, all right, let's just say that if you don't solve this problem, it costs you $500 a day. Every day you don't solve the problem. Now, you're looking to only put music in once a week. So let's just say monthly, this problem costs you $2,000. And quarterly, this problem costs you $6,000. For a problem that is costing you that much every day, imagine that was another issue, like you didn't have food or you didn't have drinks. How much would you be willing to spend to solve that issue? Right? So this is the value-based pricing. You're inserting yourself into the value. And for Robert's question about like, well, how do you understand like where to price? That's how. You understand how to price yourself because you get them to tell you exactly what the value is. It's going to cost me $500 a day. if I don't solve this problem? Well, if it costs you $500 a day to solve this problem, and I'm telling you that I can fix it, I can fix this problem for you for $200. Do you not see that this is like worth the solution? And they will see that it's worth the solution. It's just getting them to get there. And like, um, you got to make your price clear. Like, once they tell you that, make your price clear so that they totally understand. Like, okay, this is, you are here to help me, right? And again, that's being on their side. If you need my assistance, I'll help you find something. Don't lose the relationship. Um, and and also it's like making a proposal that works for both of you. There is that. Like, hey, this person doesn't want to pay you XYZ. Okay, that's just what they thought. That's what they said that their price was or whatever. You can always interject something that works for you. I'll tell you an example. I did a gig. I was going to do it, so I ended up doing a gig, but I was talking about doing a gig. I was like, hey, like, we want to play your venue, blah, blah. Now, hey, look, and this is crazy because I came from a position of weakness, which is me asking them. And likely this is going to relate to a lot of people because perhaps you are booking your own shows and maybe you're not at the space where people are seeking you out yet. And that's all right because this example applies. I went to the venue and I'm like, hey, like, we want to play this show and, we'd love to play your venue, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay, what is the rate? I'm like, oh, well, it's $2,000 for my band to play here. And so, oh, yeah, like, we can't do $2,000. We can't meet you there. Best we can do is like $750. Like, ooh, $750. I mean, $750. I can't meet you there, right? So that's using no. That's utilizing no. Now, realistically, $750, like, yeah, we could take that show. $750 is fine. Like, we could have taken a $750 show. Money is money, right? You can think of it that way. But you can utilize no. No, I don't think that we can do that for $750. If we the show that we would give you for $750 just wouldn't be up to the correct standard. Like what we can provide for that price just isn't the standard that our clients typically get, and you won't see the correct results. So I'll tell you what, we'll play your show for $750, but you give us 80% of the door. You give us 80% of everybody that comes in. We charge a cover, 80% of the people that come in. And they're like, like we don't ever really charge a cover. And I'm like, yeah, it seems like you don't ever really have to charge a cover. I'm telling you that if we come there, you are going to need to charge a cover, and I would like to have 80% of this cover. And the cover doesn't have to be steep. We can do a $10 cover. That put the booker in a very precarious position because in his mind he thought about something. He said, okay, how many people does our venue hold? Our venue can hold about 500 people. So if our venue holds 500 and they're doing $10 at the door, that's 5,000. And if they do 80% of that 5,000, somebody do the quick math for me. I think, yeah, let's call it like 4,200, something like that, right? 4,000. Thank you, mathematician. It's $4,000. And then they think of it from a position of loss. They think of, like, which is the best place to get people, right? The best place to get anyone is the fear of losing, right? The FOMO, like, oh no, I'm gonna miss out on something. They're afraid to miss out on something that they don't even have yet, right? So it's like, no, it's cool. If you want 750, we can do 750. We'll take 80% of the door, $10 cover. You want to do it? He starts thinking about that money. That, oh damn, could he really do that? Could it be for it? Like, well, I don't really know if I want to do 80% of the door because, like, what happens if you guys blow the show out? I don't want to end up having to give you $4,000. If you don't want to end up having to give me $4,000, which is actually 47, right? It's 47.50 once we actually tack on the actual rate. If you don't want to do that, that's totally acceptable. I understand that. Pay me the 2,000. Simple. Pay me the 2,000. And what you've also created in that is now you have, again, leveraging dollars and deadlines. The show is on a date. There's a deadline. Hey, I'm going to need to know because we're going to book another show. If you don't take this date, someone is going to take this date. You've hit them with a price, and now you've given them a decision to make. Do I spend $750 and potentially lose $4,000 at the door? Shit, even if they don't lose $4,000 at the door, it's the idea that I'm going to end up paying these people more than $2,000. Or I can pay them $2,000 right now, and I have the anticipation that this show is going to be great, and I'll make that money at the door. Let me take their idea and charge a cover, and I'll make that money at the door. Either way, you have won, and you have utilized pricing, your anchor, setting a deadline, and you've leveraged the demand for that, right? Like, and that's an example that, just to walk you through based off the same example that we were using before. Okay, now a lot of that was service-based. Now let's say for, the other half of the audience who's just maybe into recording and stuff, or, merch is really big for you or something. You have the rule. And the rule for most business, right? Like the rule is never discount. And I like that rule. Never discount. What are you discounting for? Why are you discounting? The idea of a discount is like this product is less valuable. Whatever you were selling has less value. Why are you discounting it? Do you have less value now? So you mean to tell me that you played more shows, you got better at your instrument, you got better at singing, you got better at songwriting, you got better at recording, you got more plugins, you got a better microphone, you got better equipment, and you're going to discount? Somehow the product went backwards? Don't be discounting out here. That's the rule. Now, like all rules, there are exceptions to this rule, okay? Exceptions to the rule include discounting to your best and your most loyal customers, okay? Now, discounting to your best and your most loyal customers, that can work because they're already there. They're established. This discount is a reward. It's a reward. It's an opportunity for you to show gratitude and appreciation. You can do that with your best and your most loyal customers. You can also, I think I mentioned this in the example a little bit before, about like, hey, book me for, I can't do it for 200, but I can do it for 150 if you'll book me for these other dates out, right? And so that is the idea of bulk buying, right? And that allows you to play into something that's called economies of scale, right? So theoretically you're discounting, but you're actually increasing what you have to gain, and that's economies of scale. Right. And it's the idea of advanced purchasing. Someone has now purchased something in advance, and that is why they're getting a discount on it, because they purchased in advance. And think about like your real life, right? Like you go into, I'm gonna use Costco as an example again, and I keep using Costco as an example because Joyburst is in Costco, but Costco sells in bulk, BJ's, right? Wholesale stores. In general, they sell in bulk. It is because they sell in bulk that you get the price at a discount. It's because it's like, oh, well, look, there's so many. I'm guaranteeing that you purchase this much of it, right? So per singular unit, it's decreased. But ultimately, you're spending more because you're buying more of the product. This is economies of scale, okay? So then you have like, another reason that you can discount is you're testing concept viability. And testing concept viability is just like, think of it, I think for musicians, the most common source of testing viability is like doing a Kickstarter, right? You do a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. It's saying like, hey, look, there is a thing that I want to do. It's a concept. And if you buy into this concept, we're putting an album out, it's going to cost like $20. But if you send me your money now, it's going to cost $15. And so then when we're done, you'll get it for $15. And all of the people after the Kickstarter is finished, they all have to buy it for $20, right? So that's playing into like best loyal customer, early adoption, right? And so that is, you can discount when you are testing viability, you're doing a startup. which also is just like pre-launching. If you do a pre-launch, right, and I recommend that people do this all the time when it comes to like Spotify and stuff. Like, if you have a, if you do not have, begin to create your own fan base, your own community, your own email list, your own WhatsApp group, or whatever it is, but someplace where you house your fans and you build relationships and connect with them. And the reason why you want this is because it gives you the possibility to do like a real pre-launch, right? So everybody has pre-save, right? Pre-save, it puts you in a scenario where it provides value by, if your pre-saves get all loaded up and stuff, then it increases your possibility that you may end up on a playlist, right? It increases that you're going to front load your plays and then they can go into a playlist. In your private community, the point of doing like the pre-launch, the early adoption is like, hey, look, you can buy this product now at this rate. No one else has access to it. I'm about to release an album. It's going to go out on Spotify. You guys can not only get the album, you get this bonus track, you get like, I don't know, this other merch idea thing like that. If you purchase it now, you get all these bonus things that no one will ever get access to by buying early, right? And then when you go put out the other thing, and I don't really want to say Spotify because you're not really selling exactly when you go to Spotify, you're distributing. But let's use that as like an album, right? Like you put out an album, you sold to these people, they got all these perks. And then you go out here to the general population and you sell to them, you sell less to them at a higher price. Right, and that allows that, what that does is it drives interest in people wanting to be a part of your community. They say, oh shit, like had I been a part of, Kevin's WhatsApp group, or had I been a part of his email list or whatever, I would have had the opportunity to not only listen to this music earlier, get it sooner, maybe be involved in some other kind of special things, but then I also would have saved money on it too. So let me go do that, right? And that early adoption is great because now you're building loyal customers. And then there's also like, I think that this is a unique thing, but like this is like early payment. You can discount for early payments. All right. Now, most of the time this comes in like when you are providing a service for like a client or something like that. Like, hey, like let's say you do mixing or you do production or something like that. And it's like, hey, you're going to pay me for this thing. If you pay me within like a net 15, right? Like so if you pay me within the first 15 days, then you get a discount, right? And like you can do it simply, right? Like you can say like, yeah, pay me within the first 15 days, you get a 2% discount, and then then you just set your price at the 2% discount price. So if it's like you want to receive $100 for it, then you just charge $102 for it. And if they pay you within the first 15 days, you still get paid $100. And if they pay you after the first 15 days, then they just pay the actual price for it, which is $102. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, it's like 2%. That's like, again, apply economies of scale. If it's $100,000 and it's 2% and someone pays you, like now we're talking about an extra $2,000. And then how many of those clients are you going to get? Like just apply the scale. It doesn't have to be 2%. It can be anything, but that's just the idea behind building in a discount for early payment. Now, I hope everybody's following along. I know it's a lot. I know it's long, and it's probably like brain freeze, but it's okay. In your notes, make sure that you have these things about discounts if you were going to use them. Okay, if you were going to discount, your discount needs to have these things. It needs to have an anchor. Okay, so you have to have a price. $300. All right, $300. That's your price, right? That's your price for your gig or the price for your product or whatever it is. And then you have to create urgency, right? So this is, again, the dollars, deadlines, okay? So deadlines are a form of urgency, right? And so urgency is just another like way to think of it as scarcity. Urgency is your response to scarcity. And there's two different kinds of scarcity, right? You have scarcity of time and you have scarcity of quantity. So you have to appeal to these things. And just think about like anytime anybody sells you something, they likely do, especially when they're discounting it, when they discount it, they appeal to these two forms of scarcity. They're like, okay, fear of missing out. This sale is only going to last for 10 days, right? So that's scarcity of time. And then they may add on while supplies last. That is scarcity of quantity. You do the same thing when you're booking, right? Like in our example, that's essentially what we said. Like, hey, like you got to make this decision now, right? Scarcity of time, because I'm going to book another show. Scarcity of quantity. When is the next time I can book you? Are you possible to book a show? And you can do this even with your products, right? If you have a product, and let's call it merch, let's call it a t-shirt. If you have a t-shirt and it's going on sale or whatever, you want to discount it, you can, again, you anchor your price. Let's say your t-shirt is going for $50. You create the urgency. $50 for this t-shirt for the next 24 hours, okay? You're going to discount it to $25. You're doing a 50% discount. $50 t-shirt, $25. So what they see is like, oh yeah, look, I'm saving 50%. It's only going to cost me $25, but I have to do it within the next 24 hours. That's scarcity of time. And then you say scarcity of quantity while supplies last. And think about like when you go to buy something on like Amazon or something like that, right? It says like on the bottom, or maybe you're buying a plugin, not a plugin because that's digital, but you're going to go buy this product on Amazon. And then on the bottom, it'll say like, of like 3 remaining. That induces your FOMO. It says, oh shit, there's only 3 remaining. I have to do this now. And so like the time is I have to do it now. And then the quantity is I have to do it now. And all of that is to move someone to a decision. Okay, the whole point of deadlines. A deadline evokes making a decision. Because the whole entire purpose, if you don't, like, please take this away. The whole entire purpose of a deadline is to move someone past the friction of a purchasing decision. That is it. You have to move them past the resistance to buy, the resistance to book, the resistance that you have to move them past that resistance. And you do it, again, give them an anchor, give them urgency, scarcity of time, give them urgency and scarcity of quantity, and that will help to move them to a decision. Now, the final thing before we go into the Q&A, and I thank you guys for following along on this, and I hope that you have questions, is there is a technique that I love. Like, I've been using this technique since I was like in my early 20s, okay? Like, this is like my thing. Because remember we said there's like the rule, never discount. Okay? I like the idea of, and we gave you exceptions to the rule. Okay, so use those. I like to use the reverse sale. Okay? Now the concept of the reverse sale is literally kind of what it sounds like, right? So remember we had this thing and we're saying, okay, it's $300 and we're going to discount it to $150. The reverse sale is the other way. It's your price is $150, and then the next 10 days, it increases to $300. What's great about this is that if you have a service or if you have a product, right? Like, let's say we'll use both examples. You have a service. It's you playing gigs or it's you mixing for people or whatever it is like that. It's saying like, hey, look, I play gigs for $150. I mix songs for $150. I write songs for $150. All right, we're just going to use that as a general basis. You then say, next year, it's good to use like times that people associate with change, like the next season or after the holidays or next year, right? You figure out what time works best for you to do this. But you say like, after that time, my price is going up. After this summer, my prices are going up and the new price is this. So that's your anchor again, right? You've established an anchor and you're creating a new anchor. This new anchor is higher. What that does psychologically is it establishes to your client, again, customers, that if anything, prices go up. They don't go down. Kevin's prices never go down. If anything, his prices go up, which means I'm rewarded for purchasing early. I'm rewarding for purchasing in bulk. I'm rewarded for doing these things early because maybe I can benefit from the ideology of since I'm here early, I'll be notified about things, or someone will work with me. And that brings us into like telling your clients that their prices are going to go up, right? If you got a whole bunch of people you play their shows, or you got clients or whatever, you like, that is the courtesy. The courtesy is, hey, I'm letting you know, because you're here, because you've worked with me before, whatever it is, that at the turn of the year, my prices are going up, and this is what they're going to be. Okay, so if you got anything that you need to get locked in right now, you got this thing that you want to buy, you got to buy it now. Okay, that increases the surge of your initial purchase, should. And then after that, if anyone comes back to you and they're like, "Oh yeah, like can you do this show for 150 bucks?" You're like, "Oh, I thank you so much for thinking of me. You did you get my email that I had sent out? Did you get my message that I sent out? That my these are my new rates. I'd love to come and do that gig, for this rate." Now you've let them know, right? And you can avoid that awkward conversation of, "Oh, this is my new price now," but like, nah, I already let you know. Okay, and then you can implement this is another thing that I like to do because it helps you maintain the relationship, and it's the idea and concept behind a second hold. It's the thing that says like, "Hey, we'd like you to come and do this show," right? And again, this is leveraging the price and the deadline. Is like, "Hey, we'd like you to come." Whoa, shit! I'll use this example. This just happened to me. Someone called me a week ago, uh, and he was like, "Hey, there's a show at the Borgata. Can you do this show at the Borgata?" The Borgata is a like casino in Atlantic City. I'm in Delaware, so it's a casino in Atlantic City. "Hey, can you do the show in Atlantic City at the Borgata?" I said, I can do the gig, but like, what is the price? He gave me the price, and I'm like, yeah, so I can do the gig, but I'm gonna have to put you on second hold because I'm currently doing something for a client that right now is taking priority. And at that rate, I would have to put you on second hold. Now, what that does is it lets them know, hey, remember, I'm an expert. Experts are busy. Experts are in demand. Okay, and I've established a value, right? So now this person has the option. They have the option to say, well, what price could you do it at that could move us into first? Like that would let you kind of put that other project on the back burner and take us, prioritize us. Right now, you can increase your price. So you're using the deadline. They have a gig that has to happen on a certain day. That's a deadline. And what you're doing is you're saying no without saying no, which allows the price to move, right? It allows a new anchor to be established. And maybe they even ask you, well, what would the price be to move into first to get you there? How much does it cost to get you there to do the show? Honestly, this project that I'm working on is actually it's pretty big. I could find the time to take a day out and dedicate it to you guys for about $5,000, and you let them think about it. The time is on. It's their issue to deal with now, right? And what you didn't do was you didn't destroy the relationship. They may say like, okay, we're gonna see if we can find that money, and then we'll get back to you. And normally, what happens is that sits on them for a little bit, and maybe they come back a day later or 2 days later because they know that the time is coming up, and they may say like, hey, you know what? Maybe they hit you with the other conversation. Oh yeah, we found the $5,000, or we can't really do five, but we really really want you. We could do four, and then I might be able to guarantee something else for you. Blah blah blah. Cool. Hey, and before you get off that call with them too, when you've put them on second hold, that you'll be in contact with them, or if they find the money that maybe you can switch some things around, is you can always say like, I don't want this to be a problem for you guys. If you let me know exactly what you're looking for, I'll help you. I'll help you find someone that can do that gig and find and do it within that budget and do it on short notice or whatever. Tell me exactly what you want. I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna put someone in touch with you. It's gonna be great. You've maintained the relationship. And then you can work off whatever other deals you want to do after that, right? Like this can get complex, but I'm just saying after that situation, you can go to your homie and be like, yo, or the band that hey, look, I got a gig. It's at the Borgata. It's a fire gig. All right, they're looking to give you 2,000 for it. Okay, if I hook you up with this gig, can you break me off with 250? Maybe they don't ever charge that much. Maybe they never played a show like that. They can't get it and whatever, right? You're just taking a booking fee at that point in time. You're like, yeah, okay, cool. All right, yeah, I got you. You call the guy back. Yo, I found a band that can do this. They're going to be there. I'm going to put you in touch with them, blah, blah, blah. Bang, they do it. This person breaks you off $250. All you did was make a phone call, connect somebody. You solve somebody else's problem. And again, what am I? When I said, who am I? I am not a musician, right? I create solutions. That's what I did. I'm a creative and dynamic problem solver. I create solutions. In the area which I frequently provide, those solutions are a music-based avenue, and I've done exactly just that. I've maybe made a profit off of the end of it. I've helped a friend out get a new gig. I've helped this place not have to worry and stress out about getting a gig because he's probably stressed out about it. And now, when he finds himself in a jam again, he's going to call me because I'm his first choice. Bang, yeah, now I might need you. If you still can't do it, if I'm still on second hold, it's okay. Can you do my job for me again? Yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it. And now you are a creator of opportunities for other people, and you can leverage that in a whole different way. Right now, you create opportunities for people, and now you're providing that as a service. Like there's different ways to branch. All of that again is a concept around pricing, a concept about, so that's dollars, right? Deadlines, how you move people to deadlines, how you utilize them, how you facilitate demand, and how that ultimately will help you make money in your career. Deadlines, leverage, pricing, demand. I hope that that was incredibly valuable for you. I know that that was like all over the place. Um, but I'm ready for the questions. I want to break this down. I want to really get into the meat of this if we can. I know that we're already over the hour, but I think that this is just like a really, it's a thing that's really difficult for us as musicians to understand deadlines and price and demand and supply and everything. So uh, thank you. Okay, so for you guys who are throwing in the questions, and thanks for sticking around for you guys. Says Ben says probably a whole different masterclass, but I maybe meant to say it's fine. How can we prepare ourselves to be AI proof? AI seems to be threatening to largely replace talent, and how do we befriend AI and stay ahead of the curve? Okay, look, this is a wonderful question. Okay, I there are going to be thousands of answers to this. I'm one person. I am going to give you uh, what I am currently doing in utilizing AI. All right, so I'm using a lot. First of all, I'm utilizing it for very simple menial tasks, right? Like, I have a podcast that's coming, that's out right now, right? And so I'm taking some of the information about the podcast. I'm like, hey, like, can you generate some titles for me? Can you generate some good copy, a good description to go on YouTube? Can you generate some good captions for me for social media, right? And I'm playing and experimenting around with that, right? That greatly reduces how much brain power I need to allocate to anything because the AI is doing it, right? Um, and then I'll tell you a more advanced way in which I'm using it. So, a more advanced way in which I'm using this is I have a plethora of recordings of me speaking, doing things very similar to this, right? Giving information. Um, and it ranges, right? Like I've been doing this for a while, talking about it, and I've been recording it. And I didn't know what I was going to use those recordings for. I just felt like, that'd probably be valuable. So there's AI that transcribes audio. So I have AI transcribing all of the audio of all of the different types of conversations that I have recorded. I then extract that audio. I go into ChatGPT. I have trained ChatGPT through a training. So every time you get a chat, if you haven't used ChatGPT, it's an incredible tool, right? It saves everything that goes in every chat. I have trained it off of a transcript of a consult conversation that I've had, and I have conditioned it to summarize, find the information. I have to do this piece by piece because it's long, and ChatGPT has a restriction on how much text it can process at a time. It's like a token-based system. But the point of this is it analyzes the conversation. It then takes the conversation, it breaks it down for me in a summarized form in the way that I would like it summarized, that I've trained it to summarize. I then get it to pull out quotes, the exact things that I have said in this conversation, and bullet them out. I then take the bullets one by one, take them into another thing, paste them over there, and one by one, I ask it for the examples that were used for these quotes because I tend to speak in analogies quite frequently. And so then it provides me with all of the examples and the context within the conversation that I provided that example. I take that and I pull it out. What I'm utilizing that for is I'm toying with the idea of having a blog that comes out that expresses a lot of these things and issues that musicians have because I get to hear a ton of like things that bother musicians. I'm also utilizing it so that I could potentially write a book, right? So I have the essence of the things that are literally from me that could write a book. Obviously, those things can then be utilized to create sales or generate interest or demand later on. I do not believe that AI will take away anything from. I do not believe that technology, period, takes away anything. It always adds, okay? It may take away a particular job, but you are not defined by the job that you do. So, you know, like you maybe needed like 100 people on a farm before to plow the fields, right? And then like somebody put a horse and they strapped this machine onto the back of it, and it was like, oh, you don't need that many people. So those people technically lost their job. They learned how to do something else, and then they built these big machines and these tractors and stuff like that. And this one thing could do a job of like another 100 people. And so okay, those people. Yeah, they may have lost their job, but they can go do something else. It creates more space in the market. The economy is a thing that continues to expand. And I would look at it that way, is that this technology will be utilized to be able to expand things. There are new jobs and new careers and new opportunities that do not exist yet. Use your imagination. Create it in your mind. Like it doesn't exist yet. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a social media manager or content manager. There was no such thing as like, shoot, there really weren't like YouTube thumbnail designers. There weren't, SEO optimization type people. There's all of these jobs that come out of it. And if you put your mind in a space that says like, okay, how can I use this and what thing can I create? What service can I create based off of this? Then yeah, it will work for you. Robert says, how do I apply this as an unestablished producer? Okay, so can you really quickly, Robert, just when you say this, can you give me a little more context into like what part of this, because we covered a lot of stuff, what concept of this you mean when you say you're an unestablished producer? Okay, because I would consider myself unestablished, right? You establish yourself. Things do not establish you. You establish yourself. And so if you're like, oh, I don't have any credits to point to or anything like that, it's like that doesn't matter. Remember, you were trying to solve a problem for the person that is in front of you. What do they need? You're like when you get into the mindset of what you are not, that doesn't help you. And that you need something, that doesn't help you. Right? It helps you to think about it in the terms of like, okay, I'm here to solve a problem. What problem do you have? Do I have the ability to solve that problem? Great, then I'm valuable. How to use dollars, decision, deadline, how to price my production. So how to price your productions. Okay, so stay active in the chat, okay? And put it in the chat and not the Q&A so that everybody can see kind of what's going on, okay? What type of client are you selling to? Okay, how do I price my productions? Right now, again, we talked about priced plus costing, price plus cost plus pricing. Forgive me. We talked about cost plus pricing, and we talked about value-based pricing. So if right now based off that question, I'm getting the idea that you're using cost plus pricing. You're pretty much just saying like, all right, this is, I spend a little bit of time, I produce something, and now I'm trying to sell it to someone. Who is your client? Who are you trying to sell it to? Right? Establish that. That's step one. Who are you trying to sell to? If you are trying to sell to other people who need to record over beats, do they have a budget? Like, do they have a budget? If they don't have a budget, then you don't need to work with them. You are only interested in clients with budgets. Then establish for yourself what types of budgets do you want to start with, okay? uh, because maybe you need the experience, maybe you need, to work with other artists or whatever like that. But what is that price for you? Okay, so you need an anchor. Establish your anchor. You price, so anchor yourself. Say, okay, I am not doing. Take whatever you charge right now for a beat and double it with no explanation needed. Double it. Don't try to rationalize this or anything like that. Just double the price. Just double it. That's it. That's how you price it. You double it. And then you find the person who can afford to pay you that. Now, you do have to provide that value. I want to be clear about that, right? You do have to provide that value. There is risk associated in a person purchasing from you, right? But only go after the clients that have the money for you. You're not selling to everyone. Lamborghini does not sell to everyone. Bugatti doesn't sell to everyone. And vice versa, Honda doesn't sell to the people that Lamborghini sells to. They don't. And they create a completely different service and product. So are you going to be in the business of bulk productions? Are you going to be in the position of custom productions? All of those will affect your price. So if you're doing custom stuff, that limits what you can work on, right? So that limits supply. That limits your supply and your availability, right? So maybe there is demand that you won't be able to meet. If it's going to stop your ability from meeting a particular demand, then raise the price. Um, I hope that helps a little bit. And again, keep going. Hold on, I'm trying to get into the chat where there were some other questions that came in here. Okay, this seems like comments. Okay, cool. Yeah, it seems like a lot of comments. If I missed any questions, let me know. Just put them in the bottom of the chat so I can see. But if that's okay, hold on. There's okay. Is it Malgortza? I hope I'm saying your name right. Could you talk more about how to figure out pricing for songwriting or gigs? Yes. Um, so let's say that you're a songwriter who you don't have you don't have any credits, right? Let's keep it there. It's like where we are, right? Like let's keep it where we are. You don't have any credits or anything like that. How do you price? Well, who are you again? Whose problem are you trying to solve? Are you writing songs for yourself? When you write songs for yourself, well, you're probably not getting paid for that, right? So we are specifically talking about writing songs for someone else. The first thing is that you have to establish the client, right? Like you need to make sure that there is a person that is here to pay you, right? That was like one of the first things that we talked about. The first things that I said was client. Your client is your customer. Do you have a customer? Okay. Then what is that customer's problem? Again, diagnose the problem. If they are an independent artist and they have trash songs and they're looking for better songs and you're a songwriter, then okay, you're saying like, hey, I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna help to write, some music for you. I'm gonna craft some things that help to exude your personality and paint you in a particular way for your audience, right? And maybe that's part of their core, and that should touch onto the emotional appeal. Those are all things that we talked about. And again, you're an expert, so you're not providing the service of writing the song. You are crafting a story for them, something for them to build their career off of. How much is their career worth to them? Right? Like, so what artists are you working with? What have they shown you their career is worth to them? Are they just like, hey, I'm an artist and that's it? Or do they have a website? Do they have music up on Spotify? Do they have recording equipment? Do they have a marketing and advertising budget? Do they have, and maybe they don't have any of these things, but again, that's still clarity for you. And then you can have the conversation with them about like, okay, like, what does this stand to do for you? What does this stand to do for you? Oh, well, if I have this song, then I can go out and I can play these couple of shows and blah blah. All right, and how valuable are the shows to you? Oh, well, um, Maybe they're in the place where it's like they're not even getting paid for shows yet. Well, I'm going to get fans, and after I get some fans, I'm hoping to like get my Spotify streams up and blah blah blah. So then you can just ask them like, do you have a pathway to profitability? If they do not have a pathway to profitability, maybe that's not the person that you work with the intention of profitability, right? And the whole point of this is you're asking me a question specifically about pricing. If they don't have a pathway to profitability, you cannot ethically price them correctly. If they do, let's say down this road they're saying like, oh yeah, I got this show and it's going to do it out here, and okay, cool, like how many shows you gonna play? We got like 10 dates lined up. We got 10 shows lined up. Cool. You getting paid for those shows? Yeah, we're getting paid for those shows. I'm averaging like $300 a show. Oh, cool. So you stand to make about like $3,000 off of this, and you're going to use my song to like kind of help you do these shows. You can't do the shows without songs, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Are you selling merch when at these shows or whatever? Yeah, we actually do have some merch. We're going to sell some merch. All right. How many? Like on average, how much do you anticipate merch you're gonna sell? Like our goal is like 5 shirts a gig. Okay, cool. You got 10 gigs. There's 50 shirts. How much you sign shirts for? $20. Okay, $20. So you about $200 in shirts, or is that $2,000 in shirts? So like again, you're getting them. This is in the same. This is a version of the same example that we used earlier in this conversation. You're getting them to tell you what all of the value is. Once you stack all of that up, then you can say, okay, so this is the value of my song. All of this relies on you having good music. I will provide good music for you. I write great songs. It's going to really help your career. You're probably actually going to have more fans and book more shows. The value that you stand to make over this whole process of, whatever is about $5,000. I think it's fair to say that, I need $100 a song. Right? And that might sound low to you, but I'm just saying, like, this is how you can price anywhere. You figure this part out for yourself. But you may say, like, yeah, I think $100 a song is solid. And let's lock it in for 5 songs. So you're again, you anchored, and then you guaranteed them a thing. Let's lock it in for 5 songs. And, again, utilize the deadlines part of it, right? Where you're just like, I have a couple of other artists that are looking to write too. And again, if I'm going to take this time out to write with you and craft the songs, we're going to do like 3 different writing sessions. I'm going to get you 5 songs, and like, it's going to take time away from these other projects. And, I really charge like $200 for a song, but because I believe in you and the product, and you do seem to have a pathway to profitability, and I want to help you get there, let's call it at 100. You ready to lock in 5? So then you got bang, you're getting $500 for your songs, and you've pushed them into making a decision because you've touched on the feeling of urgency, right? The fear of missing out. You're going to write songs for someone else, and supply. I may not be available to write songs for you for forever. And again, if you then even want to utilize the fact of your prices go up, it was like, I was, if you had hit me up like a year ago or get me up 6 months ago, I was actually doing songs for $100. Oh my goodness, I was doing songs for $100. But after the summer, I went up to 200. And I have some clients, and so like that's really, you have to get comfortable with having the conversation that way. And I hope that helps you. We have some more comments. First job, Kevin described so well, likely impacted by AI, deliver low differently. Okay, the background. That's okay, cool. If you're planning to donate the proceeds to a gig or song under organization, how would you manage price? Well, okay. So if you're going to donate it, are you actually adjusting anything? Right? Like, are you adjusting what you are providing? You're just pretty much saying this is what I do. Like, you're pricing it how you're going to price it, the service or the good, and you're just going to give that money to someone else. So I don't necessarily know that you manage the pricing so much because it's on you to give it away. Now, of course, there is, again, with the reverse sale option, right? There is a way to do this with by appealing to someone's emotional connection to something. Hey, buy this. Let me use an example of something like this merch that I have or whatever production costs. I don't want to use that. Let's use it like a course, right? Let's say like you're selling a course or something like that. You're selling a book, whatever. And you say, all right, the price is $50. Uh, it's the price is going up to $75 in the next 10 days. But over the next 10 days, any purchases made 50% or whatever, 20% are going to this charitable organization that I care about and blah, blah, blah. And this is why you should care about them too. And maybe you tell them a story, right? Because people like stories. Stories help to get people involved in stuff. It gets them, again, you want that emotional connection. My nephew had pediatric cancer. He is in remission. It's beautiful, but I got to see how so many other people are affected by this, and I want to do my part in helping. If you or anyone has been affected by pediatric cancer, we're going to be donating 20% over the next 10 days of any sales that are made before our prices increase. And then you might just get people that buy right at the price that you already have before you increase price, and then you're at your new price, and that allows you to donate as well. um cool. I think that is everything. I know we've been here for a minute. Sorry, it's been an hour and a half, but i I really wanted to make sure that you guys got the stuff that you needed. Oh, sorry, there's one more question. I think this is going to be the last question I take. This is the last question I'm going to take. And you are so welcome. Hi, Kevin. Thanks again. Always great to catch your masterclass. Investing in a portable PA system, as my style is suited for small venues. Most do not have a sound system or require artists to bring their own. What would be your nugget of wisdom for smaller venues to get started other than this? Are you asking what smaller venues should do, or should you say like what? Oh, okay. I think I get what you're saying. You're saying like, should I buy a PA system so I can play smaller venues? Yes. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared to fit the place that you are going to play. If the place that you're going does not provide sound or whatever it is like that, you can't expect them to provide that thing. And that's sort of built into the cost, right? Like they understand that that is part of the cost. Now, you you can always ask someone for stuff too. Like there are so many musicians who have equipment and they just like kind of collect it or keep it and dust is growing on it, and like they stop performing. Maybe they performed in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s, or whatever it is. But you'd be surprised how many people are out here with just gear just laying around. My first gear ever that allowed me to do so much in my career was this like super huge 16 channel Mackie mixer with this like mega power amp on the bottom. It was like, I mean, it was crazy. It was so heavy. It was so big. The speakers were huge. They were like, it was ancient and they were huge and it was heavy and it's ridiculous. And I would take that shit into small places too and whatnot because it's all that I had, but I got it for free. And so ask around, right? We're a community of people. Musicians know the struggles of other musicians. So there may be someone who is just going to be like, oh yeah, like you're going to play shows and you're actually going to play like a couple of shows. It's better in your hands than mine. It's just sitting in my garage or whatever. So yeah, I have been the beneficiary of asking for things. I've this right here, this right here, if you can see it, this M box. I like the M box minis, right? Like they're super old, they're super ancient, they don't make them no more, whatever. I've always used one. And mine broke. Like mine, like just like fried out, right? It happens. The thing was like over a decade old. It broke it flat out. I was just sharing the story of it. And one of the TSA members, Tony, he was like, hey, I have one sitting around. I'm going to send it to you. This one was his. I still, like, don't ever be so proud to think that, like, you can't receive love. That's what it is, right? I, I said earlier in this that we need to love ourselves, that we need to care about ourselves, and we need to value ourselves. And part of that is like being vulnerable with people, right? Like, could I have went out and like gone and bought something, whatever? Like, yeah, sure, but and I did, I did buy something different, right? But when the offer of love was there, hey, I have this thing and I want to gift it to you. Of course, I'll receive your love. And now I have this thing that sits on my desk every day that lets me think of this individual. How much more do you think I'm invested in our relationship, right? How much more do you think someone's going to be invested in your career if they know that the microphone that you're singing on, they gave it to you? If they can feel connected to you in a way that says, like, when their career first started and they didn't blah blah blah, I was the one who gave them this, or I was the one who helped them with that. Like, you have to connect with people. I know that we're on the internet and we can't like be around each other all the time or whatever it is like that, but you have to connect with people. You have to show your fans and people that you support and your clients that you love them, that you are open to receiving love from them. That all of this is like connected. And any opportunity that you get to do that, to bind that connection, that emotional part together, take advantage of it because it's equitable. It grows. And I think that's what I'm going to leave you with is make sure that no matter what, you are present, that you are actively emotionally engaging with the thing that you were doing, that you know why you were doing it. That is so important, and that you know who you are. Know who you are. And I'm going to leave you with my mantra, which is that my future can be better than my present, and I have the power to make it so. So go out and make your futures bright, and I hope to catch you around. Much love.